Welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host and body optimization coach, Abby O'Sullivan. I am passionate about helping you navigate your health and self-love journey, and I'll be sharing all of the secrets on utilizing nutrition, movement, stress management, mindset, and more in order to help you fit self-care into any moment of your day. We are going to bust through the health and fitness industry bullshit. We're going to have a laugh, and we might even cry sometimes, but then we're going to crush our day. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so excited to have you here. Let's go. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Crushing with Abby O. And this is the first episode of 2023. So Happy New Year. I hope it's off to an amazing start for you. This episode, I'm going to share my word/theme for the year. I know a lot of people pick a word of the year. I thought that it would be fitting given that it is the first episode of the new year. So I'm going to share how I pick a word. I'm going to share last year's word and then this year's word and talk about what that means to me. So last year, my word was expand or expansion. And did it fit? Yes. My mind was definitely expanded. I had some really significant breakthroughs in terms of the inner work and healing that I've been doing. But wow, had some really big moments there. And also my views of how online entrepreneurship could look were very much shifted and expanded. I took time to integrate a lot of what I had already been learning, healing and self-care wise, to work on regulating my nervous system in what ended up being a pretty tough year for me, emotionally, and maybe like kind of all of it. I would say more emotionally and mentally than anything, financially as well. If we're talking about health, that encompasses so much more, right? So that ended up being a pretty tough year for me in a lot of different ways. And so my self-care practices really have expanded even more, just based on everything that happened. It was like prime opportunity to practice all of it, which life is in general, but this was like, here's a big challenge for you. Figure that one out. Regulate yourself around that. But I can also use that to help others through their own transformation, right? So that felt very expansive to me. And I'll have to do a before and after, like kind of episode of how I've typically dealt with things in the past versus how I do now or will in the future, because it's very different. And you don't know until you know, right? Like when you know, then you can do better. When you don't have that awareness of all these other things, then you don't use them. You're not going to use them because you don't know about them. Or maybe you only try them a little bit and it doesn't work immediately, so you don't use them again, right? So I have that thing with meditation. So that's so interesting. I'll have to do an episode on that. But back to what I was side tangent, obviously. I was also in the company of expanders. These are people who show you what's possible beyond what you know to be true or beyond your current reality or view of reality. And this is so cool when I realized what was happening. And it was coaches that I've worked with, coaches that I've taken classes from. These are people that I follow via their podcasts or their social media. And you definitely need to be discerning in this area. But I will say that the coach that I was working with at the beginning of last year, she was very much an expander for me. She was so different than the mentor I'd had just previously. And she was a woman, and she was literally like, I would describe my ideal day. And she's like, that's my life. Like, you can have this too. It can be this way and it can be this way, and you can have this. And that was like, okay, wow. All right. Like, it doesn't have to be hard. And it doesn't have to be just this one way that somebody told me, and I don't have to be just this type of coach, and I don't have to allow this, so expanders, people that are expanding your mind and expanding your view of what is actually possible, getting you out of taking the blinders off, right? So how I pick a word is pretty simple. I get quiet and I let it come to me. It is usually popped up when I'm journaling, reflecting on the year that's ending and the upcoming year. So I'm in my kind of like reflection, like goal setting, if you will, but just reflective state. And I generally sort of just ask the question, and in my head, like I'm thinking specifically like word of the year. And then whatever pops into my head, I go with it. I don't question it. I don't try to force it to be different. I go with it. And when I hear it, quote, hear it in my head, I write it down and I run with it. Silence for me is key. Silence for me is key. Tuning out the noise, like being in that state where my mind is just kind of, it's in that mode. It's in that meditative state. It's in that reflective state. Things are clear. I'm hearing myself, right? So that's how I pick my word. And this year, receive came to me pretty loudly. And I began to write almost like a definition for that below the row. So I wrote it out in my journal. And then next to it, I also wrote allow, to allow, receive, and to allow. Basically would be my theme, my words. And you might ask, does this actually resonate with you, Abby? So you just let this word pop into your head, but does it actually fit? Yes, it does. Let me just pause here. If this happens to be your word also, wow, that's super cool. Look at us being in sync. Or if this resonates with you, then, and even if it's not strongly, maybe there will be something in here that does resonate with you. But I'm going to share it regardless because this is what the podcast episode's about. So again, does receive and allow resonate? Yes, because I know this is an area where I can be more open. I can be more open to this in my life. I know what the last 2 years has looked like for me. I could be open to more of it. So in my journal, under the words receive and allow, I wrote, allow the goodness of life. There can be a lot of dark, bleak, bad, horrible, dark things going on. There's also a lot of beautiful things going on. So just allow the goodness and receive that. This is for me, like I'm telling myself to receive that as well. Allow love without condition. I am worthy and deserving of love, period, end. From myself, from other people, from the universe, God, source, whatever you would like to call it, from my family, from my friends, from clients that want to tell me how much the work changed their life, how much my class meant to them. I'm worthy of that. So I'm going to allow that and I'm going to receive it gratefully. Allow gifts. Allow people to give you things. Allow help. Allow people to help you without condition, right? There's a lot of like, I don't know if I'm deserving of that thing that person gave me. I don't know if without condition, they want to give it to you. You are worthy of receiving it. Receive it wholly and fully and gratefully. Allow money. And I will say right now that money mindset is something that I want to work on. And at the time of this recording, I'm actually taking a class from Manifestation Babe almost immediately, like the next day after this recording, or 2 days from when this drops. 1 day from this, when this drops, 2 days from this recording. Sorry, like you don't care about that, but it's coming out very soon. So I really want to work on that. And I'm super excited to just have a better relationship with money and receiving it and allowing it into my life and allowing it to be easy, expecting it to be easy, expecting it in my life, expecting it to be easy, not making it so hard, not living in lack so much. And there's a lot to that conversation, so I won't go all into that, but I wrote allow money. Allow people to pay you for your services. Allow money to flow to you. Allow money to be there for you. Allow it into your life. Receive it. Say thank you. Like, yes, of course I'm worthy of this. Of course I deserve this. Thank you. Allow space and time just for you. And this is more of a continuation for me because I'm pretty good at that right now. But it just became so evident that for me to perform well, for me to be able to give my best to my creative endeavors, to other people, I do really need that space and time for myself. And I need some space away from creating to have more energy from it, right? I do a lot of that in my life. And I do need time to just kind of like be doing my own damn thing. So that's okay. And I'm going to allow that for myself, and I'm going to receive that, the gift that I'm giving myself of that. Allow yourself to say yes to what lights you up. And I don't mean just like a Starbucks latte would really light me up today, like double A because of caffeine and because I just like really want to treat myself. I mean like projects, opportunities, like people, the things like the things that really, oh my gosh, I just get, hot for it almost. And I don't necessarily mean like romantic relationships, because in my case, in my pattern, just because I'm like really excited for that person doesn't always mean that I should just like jump all in. I have to be a little bit more discerning with that. That's where I have to kind of pause a little bit and make sure that's not just my nervous system like going crazy or whatever. I have a slightly different, there's a little bit of nuance if we're going to talk about romantic situations and saying yes to what lights you up. That's actually a totally different episode I want to do, is talking about my sex life, because it's not what you think, possibly. Actually, I don't know what you think. I can't assume. I won't write that story for you or for me that I know what you're thinking about my sex life. But anyway, back to the episode. Oh, Lord. Okay. Allow yourself to say no to what no longer serves you. So that has been tricky for me too, because part of that is boundaries, right? And boundaries come into play a lot here, having your non-negotiables, obviously, but allowing yourself to say no to what no longer serves you can be tricky for me, because sometimes I question the timing, like when's the right time to say no, to like leave this behind? When's the right time to give that up? And that can be a little bit tricky for me. So I'm kind of working on that, because you want to be safe and secure, especially if it's a financial thing, but you also, when you realize like how much something is draining your energy and you could be putting that energy into something else, like you gotta navigate that. An easier one would be like alcohol. I've been talking about this a little bit recently with my siblings, actually, because it's almost like, man, one drink, fine. One glass of wine, fine. 2 glasses, blah. Like I just feel like more shit. So it's alcohol, and my relationship with alcohol is something that I've addressed personally, like in my personal life, more than once. And I just kind of keeps getting refined, more refined and more refined. And I think that could be a great episode as well, because alcohol is a very interesting subject to me. So the next one, let's move on, because otherwise, again, there'll be a tangent. But allow yourself to use your voice and set boundaries as needed. And I know that this probably came to mind because of situations from this past year, but specifically one from 2021 that I worked through recently. I was feeling triggered. I had some feelings come up about situations that were like, people were talking about stuff online, and I was, my own experience and my feelings around that came up. And what was different about it this time was that there was a lot of anger, and I was angry at myself. I was angry at myself for not sticking up for myself when someone was exhibiting really poor, unprofessional behavior, and it was completely unnecessary. Like, definitely needed to be called out for being a dick. And I let that go. I'm not very good at confrontation. Had a lot going on in my life. Don't like to rock the boat, blah, 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 people pleasing, blah, blah, blah. Right? So never said anything. And I was mad at myself that particular day that I had to like work through this. I was mad at myself for not sticking up for myself. So this is like me giving myself permission to own my voice, use it. I deserve to speak up for my needs. I need to speak up for my needs. Sometimes we just need to get clarity, right? We just need to use our voice to get clarity or to give clarity. So much is lost when people do not communicate properly. Communication is the key. Let's make up a song about it. I've just needed to ask for more clarity. If you can get more clarity around something, it's either going to be still a yes or it's going to be a no. You're going to find out pretty quickly. And I went through some of that even this year where I was like, man, I really should have gotten some clarification on that. I should have just asked. Why was I afraid to ask? So, obviously boundaries. Like, boundaries are something that, you're going to have those things that, like the boundaries that always stick, that are the same. And then some that you have to adjust or set as you move along in your life, different situations, people, et cetera, et cetera. Allow trust in yourself and your decisions. I wrote underneath that. After all, it is your life. So I have had some struggle with trusting myself and my decisions because of the decisions that I've made previously. But also in the last couple of years, I've had a lot of coaches, mentors, like advice, instruction, guidance. I've asked for it. I've needed it. I've wanted, I've been so desperate for it. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Right. And at the end of the day, it is my life. It's my life, my business, my whatever, my relationship, my things. I have to make the decision and I have to trust that it's the right one for me at that time. Even if maybe it turns out to not be a great one, just take the responsibility for that. This is all when you have clarity around what you want, when you know what you want, and you have your non-negotiables and you have your boundaries, this is all much easier to navigate, and also using your voice. So a lot of these things are sort of interwoven with other things, right? These points that I'm making here. But this is just me, like this is just me telling myself, like, allow this, like receive this from yourself too. The trust, like allow it, receive it. Allow connection to self and to others. Allow intimacy and vulnerability. This is big for me in this upcoming year if I want to date more. And, grow my business, my coaching business. Allow intimacy in terms of, just even talking to someone, but also like physical intimacy and vulnerability. Vulnerability, it's allowing and it's receiving. Because I could be vulnerable with somebody, but like maybe them being vulnerable with me freaks me out, right? So especially like maybe in a romantic situation, you're like, oh my God, he's being so vulnerable. Like, I'm kind of freaked out. Like, am I comfortable being able to receive that, to hold that space for somebody? It's probably more like holding space, not really receiving their vulnerability, but allowing them to be vulnerable and holding space for that. Allow connection to self and to others. Given the past couple of years, I know I can work on this. Allow healing and forgiveness of self, of myself and others, and receive it. You can do a little self-forgiveness journal or exercise is what I was going to say. Do a little self-forgiveness exercise. But if you're not really receiving that, like, I'm only forgiving you if you don't ever do that again. Like, I'm only forgiving you if you don't fuck up again. No. Like, I forgive you because you're worthy and deserving of that forgiveness. Like, it's all good. Period. End. Allow yourself to pause and to savor the moment. I did this recently when I was in a coffee shop, and the drink that I got was just fucking elegant, is the only proper way to put it. It was a beetroot latte without any caffeine, so no espresso. And it was pink, and it had like a milk in it, and then there was a design, so it was like pink and white, and then she also put crushed rose petal on it. Oh my God, it was so beautiful. And I was just like, man, look at this beautiful creation, and like complimented her. And I was like, this is what it's all about. If you get this to go, you're going to miss the beauty of it. How beautiful is this presentation? And just allowed myself to have some moments. So like, if you got to get your coffee to go, fine, but like save yourself a few minutes to just sit there and take in those first few sips. You know how good those first few sips of your latte are. You're like, oh my God, that hits so right. Or the flavors of your tea or your yummy smoothie or your refreshing juice. Like, just allow yourself a few moments to just savor that and just be there in that moment. Like when you're eating food, that's actually really good for your digestive system too, is if you're a little bit more mindful and present while you're eating. Be present with the people you're with. Like, let's work on putting away our phones. I can do that too. This is for me just as much as it is for you. Also, you know what's just as annoying as a phone? Those fucking watches. Y'all, that shit is annoying. You checking your watch is just like checking your phone. It's distracting as fuck. And like, what are you reading on your tiny screen? Come on. Anyway, I digress. I don't wear one. I don't want to wear a watch. I don't have any reason to. Like, I understand why people do, so no judgment. I'm just saying that if you're in conversation with somebody and, be present with the people that you're with, like, just put the phones away, like, try to focus in and just savor those moments that you have. Or go outside and bask in the sun and just marvel at the fact that we are on we're floating in outer space around this giant hot flaming star that we call the sun. Just being present to savor whatever is in front of you. And then last, but of course not least, is to allow yourself, this is me writing to myself again, allow yourself to be open to receiving and holding all of the above. Receive and allow because I'm worthy, because I'm deserving, and because I fucking want to, because I want to. I want to receive and allow good things into my life. Receive and allow because I'm worthy, I'm deserving, and because I want to. It gets to be that simple. It also says, for me, again, like, you can, if this resonates with you, by all means, take this with you. Take what applies, leave the rest. As I write this in terms of this being my word, it also says to me, don't be too rigid. Don't be too close-minded. Discerning, yes, 100%. Honor and value my time and energy, yes, 100%. You should too. But don't be so set on things happening only one way that you don't see another path or opportunity right beside you. Oh, I'm really good. I'm like, no. It's going to look exactly like this. It's going to happen exactly like this. And then I've just been completely unaware that, like, oh, it could actually look this way too. Oh, and I might actually like this way more. Wow, cool. So don't be so closed off and tight and tense and rigid and like whatever it is and your view and your perspective and your way of doing things that you completely miss out on something wonderful, or like a wonderful friendship or a wonderful connection or a wonderful moment. I got to look up once in a while. And that's it. Let me know what your word of the year is, or maybe you choose words plural, or maybe it's more of a theme for you. I would love to know. Find me on Instagram at Coach Abby O. You can drop me a DM always, or when I post the episode, you can put it under there, wherever you want to send me. I would love to know what your word of the year is. I love hearing what people choose, and I love hearing their intentions behind it and just sending them some good vibes, that all of that comes true. Whatever you want for this year, whatever you want to experience this year, I hope that you do. You deserve it. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to Crushing with Abby O. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. As always, you can connect with me on Instagram at Coach Abby O, or drop me an email at hello@crushingpodcast.com.